Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. Today we actually have a lot of news to talk about. If you watch reporting from Ukraine, you probably already know about this, so I'll just get it out the way first. Ukraine has conducted a counterattack and retaken Novoselivske. Russia was able to retake this because Ukraine had their forces spread thin when they were dealing with the Kisilivka group. However, they've regained control of the settlement now and can use it to threaten Kuzemivka. I know I said like 3 weeks ago that Kuzemivka was going to be liberated. Stuff happens. Alright, now I want to correct myself on something else that I said in one of my old videos. Unfortunately, the ISW reported that Tavilzhanka and Bodanivske had been liberated, but it seems like that was a false claim and they've labeled it as Russian controlled now. It happens sometimes. With a front that changes as much as it does, it's hard to get 100% accurate information, but it seems like they made the wrong call and I listened to it, so that's my fault. Alright, now on to some better news. Heading south from there, Ukraine has reportedly broken the defense at Yahidne. I also said that Yahidne had already been liberated, and that's because the ISW said it was. And I don't even know what's going on in Orlanske or Mykolaiivka. I think Ukraine has control of Mykolaiivka, but I'm not sure about Orlanske. I'd label both of them as a gray zone right now, but we'll see what happens. Alright, heading south from there, we have like good news. Bro, fucking hair. There's been a reported push of 1.5 kilometers near Dubrova. It's really hard to get an accurate drawing of the front line around Kreminna, but I'd say this is probably pretty accurate. We don't really know the status of the forest right here. And Kuzmine, which is this tiny little thing right here, is a gray zone at the moment. Alright, but better news, ISW has said that Ukraine has control of Pishane, and considering that the ISW has been wrong twice in this video already, I'm scared to report this. But I think it is pretty likely with Ukraine's momentum up here, and the Ukrainian General Staff has reported shelling here, so it's not unlikely. Right, heading south to there from Bakhmut, we have some stuff to talk about. Situation here is going. The situation here is getting pretty intense. Russian sources have claimed to take partial control of Yavkolivka, but they've also said that like 50 other times. So I don't know, we're gonna have to see if this is true. But recently Russia did assault a part of the city and Ukraine did a big counterattack and took some of it back. So overall, this north front, it's getting tense up here because if this part falls and Soledar falls, that is going to be really bad for Bakhmut. But right now it seems like things are sort of stable. Russia is definitely applying a lot more pressure than they were before, but it seems to be under control at the moment. Heading south from there into Bakhmut itself, it's likely that Russia has established itself further on the eastern outskirts and potentially even pushed up to the Bakhmutovka River. This is where Ukraine's main fortifications are built near the city. Alright, now some people are saying that Russia may have broken through the lines of defense south of the city and have taken over these two blocks. That part's been pretty much confirmed, but there have been reports of a successful Ukrainian counterattack here. Even if they do make it through here, they're going to be under a lot of pressure, and I think it's probably likely that Ukraine did take back the area that they captured. We have some better news about the south of Bakhmut. The main reason Russia's been able to make gains near Bakhmut is because Ukraine rotated out its troops in the region and replaced them with different ones. And when you do that, the new troops don't know the geography as well or the situation, but they'll adapt. But it does take time, and Russia exploited that to make some gains. That's why they took over most of the eastern outskirts and potentially pushed a little bit into the city. But before they rotated the troops, Ukraine held the purple line near Opitne, but when they did that, Russia took advantage of it and pushed up to the yellowish line. But there's been a reported Ukrainian counterattack that pushed them back about 700 meters, which is exactly the distance to the purple line. The Bakhmut front is so tense that even a couple hundred meters can change everything. So it could be possible that Ukraine retook that line of fortifications, and if they did, that is really good because that line is more fortified than the current one that they have now. This will stave off some assaults into the south for a bit, so that's always good. There's also been, well, I mean, okay, what I'm about to say is from a very Ukrainian biased source, and I'm not sure if I trust it. But they've said that there's been some success in a Ukrainian counterattack to the south near Kurdyumivka and Ozaryanivka. I'm not sure how much to trust that. Take that with a grain of salt, but we're going to have to see what happens. Alright, going even more south from here. A city near Donetsk called Marinka has been under constant assaults. Russia broke through the initial Ukrainian line of defense a long time ago, and they pushed up to about the purple line, and Ukraine just controlled the outskirts. This city was part of the front line during the original Donbass war, so it was majorly fortified, and none of the cities to the south of it can really compare to how fortified it was. This was a big Ukrainian stronghold and Russia almost took over half of it, but a big counteroffensive happened and pushed the Russians back to somewhere in the orange line near the city center or a little further back. I think the rightmost orange line is probably more likely, and this is really good because it allows Ukraine to hold on to this stronghold and keep more positions inside of the city instead of on the outskirts. I don't think they'd get too far with it. They'd probably be able to start threatening the settlements to the north of Vuhledar, but it's unlikely that this would lead to any major breakthrough. For this, it's all about the political gain of being able to take out a really fortified city. Okay, that's a lot to talk about. Going even more west? Yes, let's go. Ukraine conducted a limited counteroffensive near Huliapole. They managed to push the Russians back to Marfopil and Drozhnyanka. There we go. Russia had been operating outside of Huliapole for a while, but they've been put... This probably won't mean a whole ton, but it is nice to get a little bit of relief off of this city. They haven't really been assaulting it, though. Somebody did an interview with the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and I want to read some little snippets of that. He's pretty confident that Russia is going to try another attack from Belarus in the direction of Kyiv. There's been a lot of talk about what's going on in Belarus and the buildup of Russian forces and a combat inspection check going on in there. So he is aware of that and is preparing for it. A lot of people talk about how ineffective the Russian mobilization was, but he said that it did work and it did make the forces stronger. And he's saying that they sent about 200,000 to 300,000 to the front, and they're training 200,000 new ones to try to reinvade Kyiv. He said that it won't come this year, it'll likely come in February, but he believes that the armed forces will be able to beat them. He said that he needs 300 tanks, 700 BMP, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is, I'll put it on screen, and 500 howitzers, and he says that that'll be very effective and says that it could go to the borders by February 23rd. He says that there are enough fighters, but they need more resources. He said, with the available resources, I cannot plan new major operations, although we are currently working on one, and you do not see her yet, she is already leaving. So it sounds like they're already working on a new sort of offensive. And he seems overall very in touch and humble with the situation. He says, I know I'm not the smartest, and I have to listen to those on the battlefield. And overall, he's done amazing work so far, and the fact that he says a new offensive is underway, but we can't see it, that sounds pretty promising. But yeah, with that, that's all I got. See you guys later. Alright, thank you to my channel members Gene Helfrich, Stig Grun, Butler-esque, David Appel, Delo Mathatas, Phil Martin, Robert Jenkins, Evan Shin, Rye Jones, Ashley C137, Joel Raindow, Mike Q, Joe Sauer, PG, and JG Bashlow. This is actually getting crazy. I'm gonna have to change the font size of some of these just because there's so many to read. Thank you guys so much for all the support on the videos. The comments that I've seen recently have just been really nice. Except for the like 800 Russian bots, but I just ignore those. Sometimes I block some of the bot accounts, and when I say bot accounts, I mean like ones that just spam the Russian flag and like Slava Z and shit. Like if somebody has a different viewpoint from me or a different perspective on what's going on in the war, I leave that because that's unhealthy to just focus on one side and tune out everything else. You gotta have a good balance of stuff around you. I just want you guys to know I do read all of them. I read every single comment that comes through. So even if I don't interact with it, I am seeing everything that you guys are saying. Again, thank you to everyone, and I'll see you all later.